In this video, I'm going to show you how to edit your colored glass photos. Right now, I'm looking at my colored glass album in my Google Photos account. These are the 10 photos that I took for this project. The first 5 photos were based on a color theory term of my choice, and the term that I chose was primary colors. The next 5 photos were based on a color theme that I created myself, not based on any particular color theory term. What I would like for you to do is click on them to make them large and then scroll through them one at a time and choose your best 2 photos, one from each category. I did that and I chose this one, so I'll put a little check mark by it, and I chose this one, so I will check mark that one also. So what I'm going to do is download those to my W drive by clicking these 3 little dots, which is More Options, and choosing Download. In this window, I'm going to scroll down on the side and locate my name, and it should have a W at the end of it, which is my W drive. I will click that, and in my W drive, I already have a photo folder. If you don't, simply click this button right here, New Folder, to create one. So inside my photo folder, I am going to create a new folder, and I will call it Colored Glass. And click the yellow part to open it up. And then I will click Save. So what this is going to do is download those images from my Google Photos account into a zip folder. Now I will go and find them. So I can either click this little icon right here, which is a little yellow folder, or I can go to this Start button and go to Documents, and there are also other ways to open up your W drive. I'll scroll down here on the side, click it, and open up my photo folder, find my colored glass folder, and there's the zip file. So simply right click on it and go to Extract All. Now this is asking where I want the destination to be, and it chose to put it right back into the colored glass photos folder, which is perfect. So I will click Extract. And if I put my view on large icons, I can see there are the photos that I wanted. Now I'm going to open up Photoshop so that I can edit them. I have a shortcut on my menu bar down here at the bottom. It's a little blue PS. That's Photoshop. If you don't have an icon down here, you can get it from going to the Start menu and going to Programs and finding it on the list. It's right here on my computer. So here's Photoshop, and I purposely messed this up to demonstrate what happens in a lab situation when a lot of people use the program, is that things get moved around and put in weird places or closed, and it's always a good idea to set things back to the default locations by going to Window, Workspace, Reset Essentials. So what that does is put everything nice and tidy over here on the side and opens up the most frequently used panels. Now I will open up my file. So File, Open, and I'm going to choose to work with this one first. You'll notice that my images are sideways, but when I open it up, Photoshop is going to guess that I want it this way. Sometimes Photoshop doesn't get it right, so you may have to go to Image, Image Rotation, and choose one of these. So rotate 180 or 90 degrees clockwise or counterclockwise. But since my image came in okay, I can go ahead and skip that step. So the first thing that I want to do is crop off these parts on the edges where I got the side of the backdrop and it doesn't look very good. So the crop tool is the 5th tool down right here. So I click it to select it, and I have these little marks around the outside of my image. So I can simply click and drag these to bring in the sides however I want them. So I could do something like this. I'm going to go ahead and cancel that and show you what I usually do. Usually I hold down the Shift key, which constrains the crop tool to the same proportions as the original photos. And the reason that I prefer to do it that way is because if I ever want to have this printed, when I take it to a printing place like Costco or Rite Aid, this is proportionate to the size of papers that they have available. So my print will turn out perfectly proportioned for the paper. But if I make it some kind of crazy proportion, it might turn out weird looking on the paper. So it's up to you. If you think that you're never going to have this image printed, then go right ahead and use the crop tool however you want, and don't bother holding down Shift. Okay, so now that I've made my selection, I will go ahead and click the check mark, and that looks pretty good. So I will hold down Control-0 on the keyboard to make that fit the screen so that I can see what I'm doing a little bit better. Now the other edit that you almost always make on a photo is called levels. So over here in the Layers panel, and if your Layers panel isn't showing, it's not one of these tabs or any of these other tabs, then you can always find it by going to the Window button and going down to Layers. This is an alphabetical list. So in the Layers panel, I'm going to go down here to the bottom to this little menu and choose the one that's the half white, half black button, which is the Adjustment Layers. And I will choose from the list Levels. So what Levels has is all of the whites, grays, and blacks in the image, and it shows how much of each of those that the image has. One of the first thing that you can do is just try Auto, and that's what Photoshop thinks looks good for your image, and usually that does a pretty good job. And in this case, it does look pretty good. But you can also move these sliders on your own. You can do it, so right now I'm moving the grays, and that actually looks pretty nice. So for a realistic image, I might stop right there and choose that one. If I want to do something kind of crazy and artistic, I could move these sliders around all sorts of weird ways and get all sorts of kind of crazy effects. I'll go ahead and go back to Auto. Or I could move the slider this way. But I'm going to go ahead and go with Realistic for this photo. And I'm just going to move this gray slider over just a tiny bit. And I think that looks good right there. So if that is my finished image, I'm going to go ahead and go to File, Save As, and I will title this My Choice. And I'm not going to save it as a Photoshop document. I'm going to go ahead and click this and save it as a JPEG and go ahead and click Save. And for the JPEG options, I'm going to make the quality size 12 and click OK. So now to attach this to my Google Classroom assignment, I will use the snipping tool. And I have a snipping tool icon on my desktop right here, but if you don't, you can click the Start menu where the little magnifying glass is, which is the search option, and go ahead and start typing in snipping, and it should come right up. So you'll notice that a white veil goes over the screen. Then I can just click and drag my selection on here. There we go. And I can save this. I'm just going to save it to the desktop, and I'll call it My Choice. And it will stay here for 1 day, and after that it will be deleted from the desktop, so don't forget that part. So I'll go ahead and click Save. So there's one down, and I'll just minimize this because I'm going to use it later. And now I will go do the next one. So I'm going to close this. I don't need it anymore. And it asks me if I want to save the changes, and I will say no because I already saved it as a different name. Now I'm going to open up my other one. So here's my saved, here's my original, my choice, and here's my saved one where I made the edits. Now I'm going to do my primary color scheme. So I'm going to choose this one and open it. And it's already rotated to the correct orientation, so I don't have to change that. So over here in the Layers panel, I'm going to go ahead and click the Adjustment panel and choose Levels. And I will select Auto and see what Photoshop suggests. And I like that. But I think for this one, I'm going to try something more artistic. So I went with the true colors on my last project, so I'm going to do something a little more crazy on this one. And I think that looks pretty cool. So I don't need to crop it. So I'm going to go ahead and click off of this so I don't have those little symbols on the edge. I'll click Control-0 to make it large, and then I'll go ahead and get my snipping tool, and I'll click New, and I'll click and drag. Nice. And then I will save that, and I'll call it Primary Color, and double check that it's a JPEG. And again, I'm going to do it on the desktop, and I can save it there for 1 day. If I come back in tomorrow, it won't be there anymore. So now I'm going to go to File, Save As, and I will call this one Primary Colors, and change this to a JPEG. And here I can see back in my folder, there's the original unedited version, and now my edited version is going to be called Primary Colors, and I will save that. Leave the image options on 12 and click OK. Now I can close this, the old one. And do I want to save the changes to this one? No, because I already saved it as a different, under a different name. And now I can close Photoshop and go to Google Classroom and add those two images onto my assignment. And that's it for this video.